Is the M4 iPad Pro worth the money, or is it just another paperweight? The M4 iPad Pro has been out for just over a month with a few features like a slimmer design, a new kind of display, the M4 chip, and a 13-inch version. After using it, I'm going to use this video to go over some of my thoughts, including if the base model is actually worth it, if it can replace your MacBook. Starting with the display, Apple has created a new kind of display with the M4 iPad Pro, and it's called the tandem display. I'm going to spare you all of the technical aspects. I think by now a lot of people know what kind of display it is. In a nutshell though, it's just two OLED displays stacked on top of each other, creating a display that, I kid you not, is the best display I've ever seen in my life. And no, I'm not being dramatic. It's an immersive display when watching HDR content, and you can really see textures, colors, and images as if they're right in front of you. Watching content on this is enjoyable, whether you're indoors or outdoors, especially outdoors because of the brightness. The new M4 iPad Pro has 1000 nits brightness and up to 1500 peak nits brightness. That means that if you were to go outside and use the iPad Pro on the go, the display will look stunning under the bright sunlight. Oh yeah, the display also has 120 Hz ProMotion, but I think at this point that's a given. I don't need to talk much about that. It makes the iPad feel fluid, and that's all you really need to know. But the real question when talking about the display is whether the 11-inch or 13-inch version is more worth it. Now personally, I went with the 11-inch version because right now at a time in my life, I value portability above anything else. And the 13-inch, while it was a huge display with a lot of the perks, it has a drawback, and that's you losing a bit of portability. The 13-inch is the size to get if you really need a larger display. Someone that does a lot of graphics, maybe you edit a lot of photos and videos and you need the extra display size, then by all means, the 13-inch might be the one for you. It's also one that you might want to go for if you're just kind of using the iPad Pro around the house. But for me, I like to have the iPad where I can use it indoors and I can also use it when I'm traveling. And the 13-inch becomes a little bit more like a laptop. I'm also somebody that likes to use the iPad in bed and will most likely drop that thing on my face and get a black eye. So I think that I made the right choice in skipping that version. Let's talk about if the base model is worth it. For me, as someone that lives in Canada, the base model iPad is around 1,550 Canadian dollars after taxes. And I'm just talking the iPad alone. That's not the Magic Keyboard and that's not the Apple Pencil. If I was to go fully spec'd out, I'm looking at around $3,200 for the 11-inch model with all the top of the line specs. So naturally, when looking at the price differences, I had to go with the base version because going with all of the extra features makes zero sense. I just don't know if I pay that much for a tablet. If you were to get the base model, you're gonna get 256 gigs of storage and the standard glass, among other things. I think that the real important conversation is not what it's missing, but what it does have. And as I mentioned before, it comes in at 256 gig. That is a little bit different for Apple. Usually the base model Pros come in at 128 gig, which for a lot of people, that's enough. I do like that it has 256 because I kind of want to future-proof the device. I want to spend a quick minute on the design. Apple slimmed down the iPad Pro this time around, making it the thinnest Apple product ever. It is a light tablet, and this adds to the benefit of buying this iPad over all others. Sometimes when you put it in your bag, you're kind of wondering if you actually did put it in your bag. And that is kind of funny because the iPad Air is actually supposed to be that. It's supposed to be the lightest iPad, but this is the thinnest and the lightest iPad. So what is the point of buying the Air? One thing that I don't like about the design is just the colors. I think at this point we need something better than space gray or silver. If they did a natural titanium, that would have been amazing, and I think that would have looked really good on the iPad style. Let's talk about the speed and the M4 chip. The iPad Pro has the M4 chip, which is Apple's latest chip in the M series. And look, I feel like I say this every single video nonstop, no matter what video I'm talking about. If I'm talking about the latest Apple chip, I always say these key things, and that is it's gonna feel buttery smooth, especially when gaming or editing photos or videos in Lightroom. You're gonna get that smooth experience that even on the M3 chip, the M2 chip, the M1 chip, they all relatively feel the same. And day to day, a lot of users are not going to notice a difference when doing normal things like browsing the web, checking the emails, and even gaming. I'm playing Call of Duty and other games, and I'm not noticing a huge difference between this and even the A14 chip of the iPad Air 4. I don't notice a difference, but there is an area where it does make a difference, and of course that is editing photos in Lightroom and rendering and exporting those video or photo files. That is when you're going to notice a difference because it cuts down in speed. Of course, those add up, so for a lot of people that is important. So what I will say is that the M4 chip, while it is impressive, at this point I'm kind of bored until Apple finally utilizes a lot more of iPadOS to be able to give us the full strength of those chips. WWDC just passed and there wasn't any killer core features for the iPad this year. Can the M4 iPad Pro replace your MacBook? Look, the M4 iPad Pro is a tablet at its core. It doesn't come with a keyboard or a trackpad or a mouse. Apple says that separately, and for any other iPad, using it without those things makes sense. But I think that you're missing out on what this iPad is unless you use it with at least a keyboard. Apple Pencil is for a specific amount of users. I'm not going to recommend it to everybody, but you do need a keyboard to make better use of this iPad Pro. I'd probably just go with the recent MacBook Air. In Canada, that thing costs $1,450. That's only $50 more than the M4 iPad Pro, and with that you get a keyboard and trackpad built in, and it is still quite portable. Portability aside though, there are a little bit of limits to the M4 iPad Pro. For one, we don't have any ports directly on the iPad Pro. Actually, correction, there's a USB-C port, but that's pretty much it. A lot of people will say, just use a dongle. One extra thing that you're gonna have to carry, whereas the MacBooks have them built in. Apple's in a funny situation because they have no real incentive in the tablet market to add a lot more features to the iPad OS, because what else are you really gonna buy that's going to be a long-term device? And you really need to ask yourself this when looking at the M4 iPad versus any other iPad Pro. Anyways, what are your thoughts on the M4 iPad Pro? Are you team 13-inch or 11-inch? Do you have any questions about it? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.